In just 9 minutes, discover the most powerful insights from Joe Rogan's explosive talk with psychedelic pioneer Rick Doblin. From how therapy may need illegal drugs, to why veterans are being denied a life-saving cure, and the shocking truth that the DEA's first move was illegal. This video breaks down 10 takeaways on MDMA therapy, MAPS, drug laws, trauma, and the future of mental health. Takeaway 1, psychedelics can transform mental health care. Psychedelic therapy, especially using MDMA, is proving to be a powerful new way to treat mental health issues like post-traumatic stress disorder. Rick Doblin, who has spent over 40 years researching this, explains how MDMA helps reduce fear in the brain, making it easier for people to revisit painful memories without being overwhelmed. Instead of numbing the pain like antidepressants do, MDMA opens up a safe emotional space where people can finally talk through their trauma. According to Doblin, 2/3 of the people with severe PTSD no longer qualified as having PTSD after just 3 sessions with MDMA plus therapy. For example, in recent studies, even veterans with decades of unresolved trauma showed major improvements after only a few months of treatment. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2. Therapy matters more than the drug alone. MDMA itself isn't a cure. It's the therapy that happens during and after the MDMA experience that drives the real change. Doblin emphasizes that psychedelics work best when taken in a guided setting with trained professionals, not just for recreational use. He explains how patients go through preparation sessions, followed by the MDMA experience, and then multiple sessions to help process what came up. This full process is what leads to long-term healing. For example, in some ketamine clinics that skip the therapy and just give the drug, people may feel temporary relief, but don't actually deal with the root of their problems. That's why integration therapy is essential. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, MAPS is leading psychedelic research. The Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, better known as MAPS, was founded in 1986 by Rick Doblin. It is a nonprofit that has spent decades fighting to bring psychedelic-assisted therapy into mainstream medicine. MAPS runs clinical trials, trains therapists, and works with governments to make MDMA a legal treatment. It's not a company that wants to make billions from patents, but a mission-driven group that wants MDMA to become a generic drug so it stays affordable. For example, MAPS supported a public benefit corporation called Lycos Therapeutics to handle the drug development part while continuing its nonprofit mission separately. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4. The war on drugs caused real damage. Doblin points out that the criminalization of MDMA in 1985 wasn't based on solid science, but was more about political fear during the Reagan-era drug panic. He says the first people arrested for MDMA had their charges dropped because the DEA didn't even have the legal authority to ban it. Still, the damage was done. Research was shut down, therapists were raided, and people who could have been helped were left to suffer. If MDMA hadn't been made illegal, Doblin says, we could have saved thousands of lives, especially among veterans. For example, one tragic result is that veteran suicide rates have stayed high, while potential therapies remain locked away due to bad laws. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5. Political support for psychedelics is growing. Even conservative leaders are starting to change their views on psychedelics. Former Texas Governor Rick Perry, a Republican, is now a vocal supporter of ibogaine research, another powerful psychedelic. This shift happened after he heard about dramatic healing stories from veterans like Congressman Morgan Luttrell, who suffered from severe trauma and found real recovery through psychedelic therapy. Doblin explains that psychedelics have found rare bipartisan support in Washington because the evidence is so strong and the suffering is so real. For example, Congress recently gave $10 million to fund MDMA therapy research for active duty soldiers through the Department of Defense. We're halfway through the video. Thanks for sticking with us. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. If you'd like to support us, please tap the thanks button below. It helps us keep making great content. Drop a comment and don't forget to hit subscribe for more. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. Psychedelics can help with end-of-life anxiety. One of the lesser-known uses of psychedelics is helping people who are dying deal with fear, sadness, and unresolved emotions. Doblin talks about how MDMA and psilocybin have been used in studies with terminal cancer patients. These people often feel trapped by anxiety and depression, and psychedelics have helped them come to peace with the idea of death. He explains that these treatments don't just help the patient, but also their loved ones. For example, a study at Sunstone Therapy Center gave MDMA to both the cancer patient and their partner, leading to deep emotional healing for both. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. Group therapy could make treatments cheaper. One of the challenges of psychedelic therapy is the cost. A full course of MDMA-assisted therapy includes dozens of hours with 2 trained therapists, which is expensive. Doblin shares how new studies are testing group therapy models to lower the cost and reach more people. In some trials, people get individual sessions first and then go through MDMA experiences in a group setting. They then meet together to share and process what happened. For example, in Ukraine and Israel, where trauma is widespread, researchers are testing this model to support war survivors with limited resources. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. Personal stories shape public acceptance. Doblin's own journey helps explain why he's so committed to this cause. He first tried LSD when he was 17 and said it felt like the rite of passage he never got from his bar mitzvah. He wanted to understand himself and the world better, and psychedelics gave him that chance. He also talks about the emotional power of visiting a cemetery in Ukraine, seeing the graves of young people killed in war, and realizing that healing their families might start with these treatments. For example, he's now working on starting psychedelic therapy programs in places like Lebanon and Ukraine, where trauma is overwhelming and few tools exist to treat it. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9. Prohibition creates more harm than good. The drug war has failed, not just by blocking healing treatments, but by pushing people into dangerous situations. Doblin and Rogan talk about how criminalizing substances like marijuana or MDMA actually pushes them into black markets controlled by cartels. They point out how legal alcohol causes more damage than most illegal drugs, but is still socially accepted. Doblin explains how people who need help are often afraid to seek treatment because they fear being arrested or losing their kids. For example, pregnant women addicted to drugs often avoid hospitals because they worry their babies will be taken away, which leads to worse outcomes for both mother and child. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10. Psychedelics can reshape society's outlook. At the end of the podcast, the conversation turns toward the bigger picture. Doblin and Rogan both believe that psychedelics could help shift society toward more empathy, understanding, and self-awareness. These substances are not just about fixing mental illness, but can also help everyday people gain new perspective on life, relationships, and purpose. Rogan says, everyone needs a little help. I'm not saying you're coming back from Afghanistan, but everyone could use a little pick-me-up, a fresh perspective. For example, in Europe, cultures that introduce young people to wine in responsible ways have far fewer problems with alcohol than the United States, which treats it as something forbidden. The same principle could apply to psychedelics if done responsibly. Here is a brief introduction about Rick Doblin. Rick Doblin is the founder and president of the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, known as MAPS, a nonprofit organization working to make psychedelic-assisted therapy legally available. He holds a PhD in public policy and has spent over 4 decades advocating for the scientific and medical use of substances like MDMA to treat trauma and mental illness. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.